Hey, I'm Jake, and for this video I want to share with you the ways in which I think about mixing. So there's a song that I've been working on called Summer, and the melody idea that hit me was as follows. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. And so that was the vocal idea. And here is the project file. Right now I'm going to show you just the outline from chorus to verse. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. And I know you just want another, so I'ma keep my head on the low. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. And I know you just want another, so I'ma keep my head on the low. I've been dead for a minute, crying on my own. There was nobody to witness, locked up in my room, wishing somebody would step in. 'Cause we don't know how to let ourselves out, no. I feel a little bit embarrassed. You see, I ain't perfect, but I'm close to certain that you know we all dream chase for $1 or a change. Then we fuck up when we realize we're still the same. Okay, so you would have heard the chorus. And I think one of the first things that I find important about mixing is to make sure that you have accurate intention. So when I was making this song, I wanted to make sure that the vocals were crunchy. If I sang it the way I sang it at the introduction of this video earlier, it wouldn't have come out the same because I needed it to be crunchy, so I had to kind of sing it soft and close to the microphone like this. Here's what the vocals sound like alone. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. And I know you just want another, so I'ma keep my head on the low. So when I was mixing this, actually this is how it sounds without any of the plugins. When I was mixing it, I actually had a fan turned on because I wanted later on a heavy distortion in the mix with my vocals, and this is what it sounds like without any plugins. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. And I know you just want another, so I'ma keep my head on the low. Alright, so when I was mixing this, I knew that I wanted to get an EQ and compressor to cut out the lows and the mids and the highs, and increase the highs just a bit. So that was the first thing I did on the vocal. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would. Now the next part is a VCA vintage compressor, and the reason why I chose the vintage compressor is has to do with the fact that it said it's vintage, which is, I know, a really bad reason, but I wanted a vintage sound, so obviously I'd hard compress it with a vintage compressor. I think VCAs have a different attack time and release time to things like the FET model. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. Okay, now I brought up another compressor to kind of smoothen out the way the VCA model compressed the vocals. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. So now the vocals are becoming crunchier, but you can also hear that the fan noise is becoming more prominent. I feel down in the summer. That's because I'm accentuating the lows and kind of squashing the vocal signal so it's more prominent in the mix. The next thing I brought and this is the reason why I recorded intentionally with a fan nearby. I got a noise gate so that the signal of the fan would only appear with my vocal lyrics. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. And okay, now after that, I brought over an EQ, and I cut out even more of the lows because I wanted this to have a vintage feel. I think that's the core intention of this chorus. Because when I was singing the I feel down in the summer, I was thinking about people. The visual in my head was having it on vinyl and spinning with like a depressed man or woman drinking whiskey and sitting down and thinking about their summer and how they feel left out. So that's why I wanted it to have a vintage feel. Like, this is a vintage emotion that occurs with many people who feel left out. Yeah. So this is what it sounds like. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. Cutting out a lot of the lows kinds of gives it that lo-fi feeling. If I don't have it cut out, this is what it sounds like. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. And I know you just want another. Now I brought over the Isotope vinyl plugin, and this one I set to the year 1930. Yeah, 1930. And this is what it sounds like. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. And I know you. Then gain. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. And then obviously reverb. I feel down in the summer, and I wish. Now, another important thing, while I was mixing the vocals, I also had to consider what was in the background. So if you look over at this glistening pad, it's literally a preset that I just pulled up from the Logic library. I played 3 chords. And it just goes on. And on top of that, there's some vinyl. This comes from Alchemy. Oscillator A, just vinyl noise. I turned off the saw oscillator, so you just have plain vinyl. And it has a bit of reverb. And it is side-chained, I believe. Or not. It's not side-chained. So when I was going for this mix for my vocals, I had to work around the pad, and I think that's really important. So I'm not thinking about how do I make my vocal crisp. I'm not thinking about what's the best way to make the vocal sound professional and how will it compete with other songs. I was just thinking about just the pad. And the pad is very wide. It has a large echo, but its mid frequencies, the low mids, or just straight in the middle, have space, and that's why I mixed the vocals the way I did. So together, I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know, and I know you just want another, so I'ma keep my head on the low. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. And notice that my voice kind of, it kind of has a beautiful battle going on with the glistening pad preset, and that's because also of the timing of the vocals. I let the chord play before I say my line until the very last chord where I say, and I wish somebody would know. I feel down in the summer, and I wish somebody would know. So for my mix, I didn't really have to worry about fighting the frequencies of the pad, although I just wanted it to sonically match. So the point, I guess the point is that space is really important when I'm mixing. I really consider space, and that's why I don't really flood my... Every time I have vocals, I try to strip away a lot of instruments. And here is the verse section. I've been dead for a minute, crying on my own. There was nobody to witness, locked up in my room, wishing... So what I have is one bass that acts as a, I believe, a sub. Really quiet sub. And I use the ES2, and I literally just pulled it down an octave. I don't know why I have a cutoff here, that's totally unnecessary. But I increased the attack a bit because I wanted to layer it with the electric bass. And the electric bass is, this is what it sounds like. And without the plugins, there's a lot of low end that's hurting my ears actually. If I try to play it with a mix, with the vocals. I've been dead for a minute, crying on my own. There was nobody to witness. It sounds kind of flat, and the reason is because sonically, I think I was moving from here, and I know you just wanna know, to this. It just doesn't make sense. I've been dead for a minute, crying on my own. And the reason why it wasn't making sense was because I think that my intention was to have a vintage feel for the chorus. And so when I move over to the verse, when I'm mixing, I try to think about the intention of the sounds. I have to kind of have a bass that would match the visual in my head of that vinyl listening experience. That's just the image in my head, and I had to try to match that. So the verse had to match the chorus in terms of having that vinyl relation in my taste. So I added an EQ. I cut out a lot of the lows because I wanted the bass to be buzzy. And then I added a compressor, which is the classic VCA. The reason why I used this one is because, to be honest, I didn't know how to play around with the attack and release time of this certain bass. So I just wanted to play with a threshold and ratio. If I go to Studio FET, you'll see attack and release. I didn't know what to do there, so I just chose the classic VCA. I cut my options so I can make decisions faster. I've been dead for a minute. There's some light reverb. There was nobody to witness. Locked up. The last part's just the reverb, so it fits with the clap. So if you hear the bass without the reverb with the clap, let me just mute my vocals for a bit. It sounds a bit off. There's no space because there's a bit of room echo. I think a bit of diffusion echo with a clap, which are these. It sounds like a plate reverb. So if the bass is just static, it sounds a bit off. So I added just a bit of platinum reverb. I wanted it to be digital because I was worried about messing up the room space too much. When it's digital, I feel like it's cleaner in this context. Then I pull in the sub just to fill in the low end. And notice that I have the vinyl still. The vinyl is the most consistent thing in this track, and that gives it, I think, that little high-end vintage feel. When I say high-end, I mean the frequency, not like the quality. Sorry about my nose. So here's with the vocals. I've been dead for a minute, crying on my own. There was nobody to witness, locked up in my room, wishing somebody would step in, 'cause we don't know how. Alright, so let's talk about the vocal mix for the verse. The verse is more minimal. I have an EQ that cuts out all the lows. I have a compressor, the FET compressor. I really like the snappy attack and release time of the Studio FET compressor. I think it works well for pop vocals, but that's just me. It's totally dependent on the context. The next thing I have is a multipressor, which is just, if you don't know what a multipressor is, the way I view it is that it compresses certain frequencies. So over here, God, this interface is just fucking shit. Wait. The frequencies from 1K to, I don't know, about 8K. Think of this part as an EQ and this bar as the compressor. So basically a multipressor is just 4 compressors or however many compressors based on frequency bands, which frequencies you want to compress. And after the multipressor, I have another compressor, which is the vintage FET, because I wanted to be consistent with the vintage feel. Then I have a reverb, which is medium space, rooms, the wine cellar. I really just picked the reverb based on the name, because I was just imagining where would I be performing this vocal, where could I see myself, like what kind of setting would the listener be in, and that's how I chose the reverb. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is what it sounds like without the plugins. I've been dead for a minute, crying on my own, there was nobody to witness. Locked up in my room, wishing somebody would step in. Now I'll play it again, and I'll slowly add each plugin. So first the EQ and so forth. I've been dead for a minute, crying on my own, there was nobody to witness. Locked up in my room, wishing somebody would step in. 'Cause we don't know how to let ourselves out, no. Okay, so I think the most important thing that I've learned about mixing is that you want to think about space. That's just the most important thing I find to be in mixing. The next thing is, it's kind of weird, but I'm going to show you my studio setup. This is it. You just have a microphone, Focusrite interface, my MacBook, my keyboard, and my headphones are actually Urban Outfitters. I don't know why people don't talk about this, but when you're mixing, I'm all about being expressive and having comfort in your setup. I listen to music 24/7 on these Urban Outfitter headphones, and I'd advise, if you're new to music production, get a pair of headphones you enjoy listening to commercially. So meaning you listen to it while you're going to Starbucks, while you're going to the mall. Always have a good pair of headphones, in the sense that you enjoy listening to the music in that setup. So if you enjoy listening in Dre beats, if you enjoy listening in Dre beats, learn about mixing, learn about flat frequencies or frequency responses, and then after that, mix on the Dre Beat headphones. And the reason for that is because I understand that people will say you need to get professional quality headphones, but my personal argument for amateur producers is that we need reference tracks more than professionals, in the sense that we need to know that what we're making is enjoyable. So instead of going for a professional sound, let's think about what makes it enjoyable. And if you have headphones where you enjoy the music while you're mixing, you'll aim with the same headphone setting to have the same quality. And that's why I say try to pick headphones that you enjoy listening with. If I had Audio-Technica headphones, there might be a better frequency response, but I'd mix completely differently in a way that I don't enjoy, because I'm not used to hearing other music within those headphones. Anyhow, I hope this video helped, and yeah, take care.